Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we are looking at player props on a Monday here in the NBA postseason. Got 3 games on the docket that we're going to look at. Definitely want to make sure to subscribe to that page. Also have best bets up in a separate video for you, as we're doing each and every day now throughout these playoffs. Also head to thelines.com and use everything that we have up on the site right now to make sure that you are getting the best juice back on all these bets that you're making in the NBA this postseason. Nate, let's go ahead and run right into your first NBA best bet. The best player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic?
Best player prop here. Yeah, Jokic is maybe the best playoff performer of the modern era at this point. And I'm taking him, not the points, the 22.5 rebounds and assists here in a closeout game. And that might seem kind of counterintuitive with Jamal Murray legitimately questionable and be like, well, he's got to pick up the scoring slack. And he might. I mean, his usage is up to 33% without Jamal this year. Also averages more rebounds and assists. He's up to 23 of those. And I think you can inflate his numbers in the playoffs. But really, I'm thinking about how the Lakers are going to guard the Nuggets at that point. If they're not as worried about Jamal, if they think he's maybe a little bit of a decoy, they're going to send even more doubles towards Jokic, right? And they did a lot more of that in this game as they finally won Game 4. Up the pace as well, so more possessions, more rebound chances for the Joker, and more double teams coming his way. It just means like great, more assists and secondary assists. Like you cannot double this guy and expect that to go well. I mean, in this series, 24 rebound chances per game. 24.5 in the ones that were at home, grabbing at least 5 contested and 16 boards per game. So, I mean, I kind of like the rebounds more. If you're picking one to stand alone, it's 13.5. But I do think there's some variance there. And I think he's also good for about 10 assists, given the potential assists are also 15 a game in this series. He's averaging 86 passes. He averaged 13 in the regular season against these Lakers, right? In previous 2 home games against the Lakers. Okay. So he went under in 4 straight playoff games, home playoff games. If you look back, I mean, some of those against the Heat in the finals and all their junk defenses, but the previous 2 home games in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers, I mean, he just flew over this 19 rebounds and 13 assists per game. I mean, when he goes over it, it's not even close. It's usually over by like the first half. He had a double-double in the first quarter of one of these games against the Lakers. And I just think, yeah, at the helm of this offense in an elimination spot, he's going to be doing it all.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't argue with you for the points either, to be honest. And Jamal Murray or not aside, I think there's an aspect to this of like, we're done here for Joker. Like we're done. So I think probably, if you look at last year, what I think is a good assumption is that he's going to come out and try to involve everybody on his team and make this a team effort at first. And then if he's like, look, I'm done with this series and I need to put these Lakers to bed, then maybe the points come out. But I think the rebounds will be there a ton. He just watched Anthony Davis get every rebound possible. And to be fair, like Anthony Davis was also getting like the dribble towards me after 2 guys miss it rebounds in that last game. So, you know, I think that was a little bit inflated, but Joker has something to just sort of like own here, which is like, we just want to get rid of this series and I need to show how much better I am than any center in the league not named Joel Embiid. Let me put it that way. Go Knicks, by the way, 3-1, baby. All right, starting off rather with my first play a prop here with Derek White. And I think Derek White is someone I should have been going to, man. I love betting on D White all season. He's at 12.5 points still. And for me, it was like, oh, I thought this thing would be at 14.5 by now. Like he's continuously gone over this. And in the last one, he had 13. So he went over, but just barely. And honestly, like the thing is Drew Holiday's not shooting well. I just kind of want to bring that up as a side point for why Derek White keeps doing well. Not shooting at all, but what's interesting is, so I agree, except for last game, Drew had 4 more shot attempts than Derek White. It was the first game he had more than him, but still, he's just been off. He was 4 for 12, and in the last game, D. White was 5 for 8 and hit a couple threes, got his 13 points. That game wasn't even close, so not many of those dudes needed to get much burn in the fourth quarter. But for D White, like I was trying to figure out at the beginning of the series, like which one of the dudes is going to do better between Drew and D White. And at first I thought it might have been Drew Holiday, and I did. I bet on him in game one, which if you follow along here, because I thought like, well, Drew is the dude in the corners and Derek White is the dude up top more. And the Heat are more vulnerable in the corners because they press really high up on above the break stuff, which is where Derek White stands way more than Drew Holiday. Like he's taking way fewer shots from the corner than Drew is. Doesn't matter. Like he's been a better spot up shooter all season. And that's constantly what I'm looking for against this Heat team is who is the best spot up shooter on the other team. Because of that pressure defense that the Heat play, they allow the second most points to spot up shooters and guys that have been standing in that same spot for a while. And D White is someone who loves to cut and move around. But when he is the third, I mean, at best, probably third, probably fourth banana, because KP is definitely that dude, maybe even above Jaylen Brown in terms of the priority of the offense when he's on there. But like it obviously goes Jason Tatum, it's some combo of JT, JB, and KP. And then you get Derek White as the fourth banana. And I'm still okay with that because he's the easy pressure, pressure release, right? When they need to keep that ball moving. And a lot of those secondary assists end up in Derek White's hands for a jump shot or driving to the rim, but also a jump shot. And he's gone over this number very consistently with these dudes in the lineup. In 68% of the games of this season, he's gone over 12.5 points. In 60% of the games, he's playing with JB, JT, and KP. Just so everyone knows, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis. I think that's pretty obvious. When he's playing with all three of those dudes, he's gone over still 60% of the time. And versus this squad, 5 of 6 this season alone now, including these playoff games, versus the Miami Heat, because once again, he's taking the majority of his shots against the Heat as a spot-up shooter. Like when one of those three dudes is off the floor, then he's a little bit more of like involved in the pick and roll, or he's involved in the actual like primary action, but now he's really just the secondary and tertiary action in terms of like receiving passes around the perimeter as this Boston team moves the ball pretty well and finds those shots against the Heat, which is why another reason I have zero problem betting on the Celtics to are they closing this? No, to take the 3-1 lead in this series once they win this game, because of the fact that like their ability to move the ball around this defense for the Heat is going to be way better than the Heat's ability. But really, like the other thing is the Heat, they'll continue to do that. They'll continue to pressure the ball handler. They're the second best team against the pick and roll ball handler. They're also they're very good at limiting pull up shots, not necessarily spot up shots, but if they're on ball, then their focus is where the ball is. And that's why guys are able to get left open as the spot up. So if D White is going to take I have got him at 9 to 10 field goal attempts. He only took 8 in the last game, got to the free throw line a couple more times. So that did take away from his field goal attempts because obviously if you get fouled on a shot and you go to the free throw line, it's not considered an attempt. So it doesn't hurt your percentage. But either way, like, that's why he is the perfect prototype of like, once he gets the ball, he's either going to make a good open three, or he's just one of the best decision makers in the league and is very good getting inside the lane. And if you shoot in the paint outside of 5 feet, right? So the paint non-restricted area for the Heat is the other vulnerable position for them. If you hit a nice little floater, which is a Derek White special for sure. So I'm going to keep, if he gets the 10 minutes, the 10 field goals in 34 minutes he's been getting in this series, then he should be consistently right at about 14 points in this series.
Yeah. I mean, I also regret not taking White because I bet on Tatum in that last game and then realized kind of a little bit into the second quarter, even when Tatum's going off, I'm like, the Celtics, they're not going to need a 30 piece from Jason Tatum every game, right? They are just have so much more balance than the Heat, who their MO is that they're going to try to identify who they want to shoot, right? And try to sell out and stop your stars and shut off your water. And Derek White is the ultimate glue guy who's just like, he's going to find the seams. And I mean, they can't let him shoot anymore, right? It was like last year in the playoffs, he couldn't hit threes against them at times, and then some games he would come in and hit them. And now he's just money. Like he's just one of the best offensive glue guys in the league. Like
yeah. And I just want to add one more point because you reminded me of it, which is Derek White is the most blowout proof of the Celtics starters, really. Like he is the one who, if you look at like Celtics in 10 to 15 point wins where they blow other teams out, Derek White's minutes still stay pretty high. Whereas guys like Tatum and Brown and Kristaps, they come off in the fourth quarter when they're up by 15 points. But if this does turn ugly, Derek White's still the adult in the room at the end of the third and into the fourth quarters when this thing is a little bit more out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's blow-proof because his prop is like 10 points lower than those guys, which is always helpful. And Nikola Jovic, my second pick here, his prop is also very low despite, cruising right over it, over 5.5 rebounds. Let's take that again. It's only minus 105 at DK. I mean, you can add the points if you want, but I just think the rebounds are the most consistent thing here. I mean, you're counting on him hitting some threes, I guess, to continue his scoring barrage, but his minutes did spike from 26 to 35, 34 in game 3. Your boy Kevin Love, one of my favorite players back in the day, cannot survive anymore in a playoff game. He has not played in the second half of either of the last 2 games, and Spoelstra knows he needs some length out there, right? He needs some quickness and some length with Jovic and Bam both playing heavy minutes. So that's why he was out there for that much, and he was up to 14 potential rebounds in those 34 minutes. In the first, you basically got this in the first half. I mean, he wound up with 3. He had 2 rebounds that he was either fouled over the back or like they barely tipped it out of his hands. Like he was just right there in position to capitalize on these potential rebounds. And then obviously finishes with 8 boards again, right? I mean, Celtics, even in their ultimate like bounce back game, still only 11 for 37 from 3. It's not like they were never missing shots. So there's going to be more rebounding opportunities. Spo, I think, will not throw out the zone as much. I think that's kind of a disaster, and that also slows down the pace when they play more zone. So, and it makes it tougher on guys to rebound a little bit. So, man to man, Miami Heat style, right? And Jovic swooping in for some boards. It's just 5.5 is just very low for the second rebounder on this team.
He is the second rebounder on this team because K-Love is no longer available for this series, to your point. And honestly, I'm not worried about I love the confidence which Jovic is shooting with as well. And I agree that the scary part about taking points for Jovic is the need for him to hit threes, for him to kind of get going. But I mean, I don't know. I've watched the kid play as well consistently, and I do kind of feel as though there's something to the idea that his inside game does lead to his outside game. Of course, in the last game, he hit the first shot for the Heat. He hit the 3. That was also in game 2. He's actually been like the first bucket getter for the Heat a couple times now because he's just coming out and actually sinking these threes. So I'm not scared of it. I love a little Jokic parlay as well, since you've got both the Nicolas in your thing here. If we've had Vooch in the playoffs, we could add a Nikola trifecta. But let me close it out here. What's that?
The joy of Nikola, DraftKings will probably brand it.
Joy of Nikola. The last one I'm going with here is Bam. And I think that it's low. This is so low. His points and assists are still low. He hasn't been diming up this series, so that's probably why people would be a little bit scared. And his points prop has risen as his props have gone. His props have risen as he's continued to get over his points totals in this series so far. Over in the first 3, over 19.5, which is still available for his core points prop. And he was at 17.5 in game 1, which was dumb. 18.5 in game 2, which I definitely took the over on that. And in the last game as well, still at 18.5. Now you get him at 19.5, right on the cusping of 20.5. But I'm kind of okay with either. And I don't mind adding the assist because this is something that over the course of time, he does way more often. His potential assists are a little bit down as well. But let's put it this way. This is really about math to me. So in 25 games this year without Jimmy Butler, he's gone over this points and assist total rather, in 20 of those games. He's averaged 26 points and assists combined in 36 minutes per game when he plays without Jimmy Butler in the regular season. He's also gone over against this team in his last 6 without Jimmy Butler against the Celtics. So this isn't like a weird matchup thing where he's only done it against bad teams. He's also gone over consistently against this exact Celtics squad. He's averaging 38 minutes per game in this series. And when he's getting 38 minutes per game, he goes over at an even higher clip without Jimmy Butler, 24 of 25 games where he's gotten 38 minutes, because it hasn't even happened that many times. Rather, it's 4 of 5 games, I should have said. 4 of the 5 that he's played 38 minutes without Jimmy Butler, he's gone over this. So still a nice 80% clip that he's hitting this number. And he's averaging, like I said, that same 26 points and assists against the Celtics without Jimmy as he is against all these other teams without Jimmy. So I think this is just kind of where he's at with the usage more than anything. Plus, getting to the free throw line is very, very helpful. He's done that enough in this series so far to get him over the point total when he doesn't shoot quite as good of a percentage. But he's been shooting a fine percentage so far, and in part because what he wants to do is score in the only ways that Boston's defense is vulnerable, which is ISO or post up, because they are an incredible defense at limiting assists. They are incredible at switching, and obviously have everybody on their team is a plus defender that is 6'5" or taller. I guess Derek White and Drew Holiday might, because they're like 6'4", whatever. They're incredible defensive backcourt, combined with the front court versatility. Like, that's a huge reason why they don't give up assists at all, but they do give up stuff in the ISO, because they don't really double, because they don't really have to, which they know. So that's why the assists are down against them, but the points from ISO or post up stuff can be up a little bit more. And it's a little bit of a lie, to be honest, that they're like bottom 10 in terms of allowing points off of ISO and points off of post up, because guess what the two most likely plays to get a 2-pointer and not a 3-pointer are? Those two plays, right? ISO and spot up. So they're like, great, we're so happy to trade Bam's 2-point little 6-footers for all these threes that we can rain down, right? So I think they'll continue to let that be the sort of pressure release from their defense, is like, yeah, Bam's got the ball in the post, and yeah, maybe he's going to take and be quicker than Kristaps at times. We don't really care. Like, even when he takes Al Horford, we're like, it's the Dubs of old. We're just happy to let you get 2s for 3s. Like, that's fine. So they're going to run, as long as they keep running dudes off the 3-point line, that's only going to help Bam's points. It's not going to help the Heat win. It's just going to help Bam's individual accolades and stats in this series, which is like, yeah, Bam, go ahead and get yours. As far as the assists go, I only added those because I just think at some point very soon, this has to regress to the mean. And if the Heat are shooting anywhere better than they did in the first game, as long as they're shooting better than they did in the first game, then he'll be fine to get these dimes. And now he is going to have some pretty confident guys like Jaquez and Caleb Martin and Jovic out there for a lot longer than some of the backups that were taking their minutes, including Kevin Love, who, when he was out there and healthy, was fine, but like is not going to be the offensive weapon that those dudes are that I just said. So I'll take Bam. I just added the assist because I think that there's going to be a game this series. It might be this one, it might be the next one, where he is able to get those dimes up a bit from the low numbers they've had so far in the first couple games.
Yeah, I think you're spot on to add those. I mean, it's a situation where you're adding 3 to this prop, and his actual prop is 3.5 assists. It's juiced to like plus 140, to saying like he hasn't had 4 assists in the playoffs in a while, and we don't expect the Celtics to allow many easy kickouts here. But to add the 3 is fine. I mean, but I think you're mostly on it here with them giving him the ISOs and post ups. Like that, you love to have a guy to score a certain amount of points when the other team is actually encouraging that. It's like, we just have to stay close on Tyler Hero. We cannot let him get the DHO here. We cannot let Jaquez get ahead of steam going downhill, and we cannot let Caleb Martin shoot wide open threes, no matter how funky his release is. Like, these are the Celtics' prerogatives, and they did them in spades in Game 3, and that allowed Bam to go over this prop. And so I don't think Joe Mazzulla is a guy to necessarily zag on something that worked. He's like, he's more like, yeah, let's double down. This is the way we play. And so I think we'll see more of that in Game 4.
Yeah, I like all of that analysis as well. So that is all the time we have for you in Play Up Props here for Monday in the NBA postseason. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page, check out the best bets that we have up for you in a separate episode for Monday as well. And until we see you next, happy betting.